taking the stand in his own defense.
There was nothing else I could do. I was backed in the corner. I tried to leave.
The man accused of gunning down a Daytona Beach police officer says it was all in self-defense.
In my perception, I felt that this was the only option I have after I had tried everything else.
Othal Wallace says he was scared for his life and had no other choice when he opened fire.
You testified earlier that you had no other choice but to kill Officer Raynor, right?
And after everything else I had tried, that had become the only option that seemed to be.
Othal Wallace was on the stand for about 2 hours giving his side of the story. Thanks for joining us today. I'm John Brown.
And I'm Marlisa Goldsmith. Closing arguments are now expected to happen tomorrow. Fox 35's Marie Ettinger was inside the courtroom for Wallace's testimony. She joins us live now outside the Clay County Courthouse. Marie, Wallace walked through why he pulled the trigger.
He did, and I'm sorry if I was unclear when I was communicating back with the station earlier, but closing arguments are actually happening as we speak. When I walked out, they had just begun a few minutes prior. The prosecution is speaking right now, and the defense will be next. Tomorrow, the jury will deliberate. This murder trial I want to talk about has been different. A lot of the time in murder trials, the prosecution is trying to prove that a particular person is guilty of killing another person. That's not what's happening here. Othal Wallace admits that he pulled the trigger. The discussion has been about whether it was justified and what led up to that shooting. He took the stand today to talk about that very issue.
I was just sitting in my vehicle. I was listening to music. I had taken a phone call, and I just went back to listening to music and just relaxing and smoking my cigar.
That's how Othal Wallace describes the lead up to the moments that ended with Daytona Beach police officer Jason Raynor dead on the ground.
I was just minding my business.
The prosecution says Officer Raynor approached Wallace, acting on a be on the lookout notice and potentially seeing a marijuana cigarette.
Sir.
Wallace says he didn't understand why Officer Raynor was approaching him and that he tried several times to leave.
I was most definitely fearful because I didn't know what was going on. I hadn't had answers to my questions, and I was just trying to see like what's going to happen here. I never ever in my life been in that situation, and that was kind of like one of my worst fears is being in a situation like that in the dark with no witnesses.
The two start tussling, and although the prosecution has given evidence that Officer Raynor never drew any of his weapons, Wallace says he believed Raynor was reaching toward his waistband.
At that point, I was like, this is not going to go right for me. Like, there was a deep sense of fear that my most, the thing that I feared the most was probably happening to me right there.
Wallace told the jury in that moment he felt he had no choice but to shoot Officer Raynor in order to get away. But the prosecution argued,
You could have complied and not got to a point of having used deadly force, correct?
I could have sat down.
But and complied, right?
Yeah.
Right. You'd agree with me, right?
Yes.
Right. So this whole situation would have been diffused if you had just listened to the law enforcement officer there.
Tonight at 6, we'll be talking more about Wallace's decision to flee and the controversial social media posts he made both before and after killing Officer Jason Raynor. Live in Clay County, Marie Ettinger, Fox 35 News.
Thanks.